So there's a whole bunch of little tribes running around, but they don't have a voice because they're trying to fit in with society, which is, a large community. But it's really up to us, to speak up and be our true self so that others can speak up and be their true selves and see that, oh my goodness, there is somebody like me. There are Black people that get depressed. There are Black people that have mental health disorders. Wow, I thought I was the only one. So it is scary. I'm not gonna lie. In the beginning, when I went on my computer and was about to type up my whole entire story, I went to the bathroom and cried. It was like this intense, I don't even know, like I'm doing this, but whew, this is a lot. And I ran to the bathroom, I cried, I came back and I had all these messages. So it was confirmation to the fact that, man, if I keep showing up as myself and in my true self, there's other people out there waiting for me to show up as my true self.
We have to seek healing in so many different ways and then respect it. And you are so right when you talk about the discomfort that comes with speaking up, with saying something that maybe other people don't want you to say. When you said, lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, well, you know what? They wear suits and they're in tall skyscraping buildings. The lions, tigers, and bears is not just what happened years and years ago. And it comes out in little words where, the code language, like, oh my goodness, is Nieisha a cultural fit? Is Maureen a little bit aloof? Those are the kinds of words that say, maybe you're not a part of this community. And when we start trying to, as you said, so desperately looking, how do I fit? How do I join? And giving up more and more and more and more of what's real is when it becomes toxic for us. And I love it that you talked about your showing up, allowing other people to show up, because I actually think that's the only way we can do it. We have to know that, we need community care and we need to form community in order to do that. And it does take some courage at first. And that's so much of what I just want to appreciate about you and this chance to be in this virtual space with you right now. It's just amazing that here you are offering to our whole community, anybody who can plug in on the internet and say, Pure Spark, come join us. We're just going to talk about how are you sleeping? What's your body doing? Pay attention to your body. How, what's happening when you walk in and something doesn't feel right? Are you noticing where your body is, tight? How do we carry ourselves? And the work that when you put this platform together for a virtual community, it allows us to notice things that we may not have even noticed before. And as someone said to me, I spoke with a wonderful woman just a couple of days ago about something that I had written. And she said, well, your story helped me to add my story. And that's, I think, what we are here for. That's how we show up.
The community is a space where I allow people, I don't have the authority to allow people to do anything, but I think me showing up as my true self and opening up the space every Wednesday night from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock by sharing a part of my story kind of like takes the weight off of people's shoulders to let them know that I'm on par with you. Like, I'm not higher than you. Like, this is a story that happened to me. I am currently in a space of continued healing. I just recently had a panic attack when I was at Treetop Adventures in Canton. I don't know if you guys are familiar, if you are familiar with that, but I have an extreme fear of heights. And I sat on top of a ledge where I was supposed to do a free fall from 20 feet up in the air, and I had a complete meltdown. There were kids looking at me saying, I just did it, you could do it too. I'm crying and I'm literally having a panic attack. But thankfully, my niece just graduated undergrad with her degree in psychology, sat next to me, and she helped me engage my parasympathetic
Yes.
system.
Nervous system, the part that, yes.
She had me doing some deep breathing exercises, and this is stuff I know, right? This is stuff that I do. I practice it. But even though you might be a healer, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a therapist, whatever, you have all these tools, we're human too. And
absolutely,
that fear, like we have like a comfort zone. It was above that. I couldn't handle it. I needed help. And that's what I hope that Pure Spark can be, is like, if you can't handle something, we're here. We got coping mechanisms. We got resources, we just try to help people along on their journey. So yeah.
Yoga, dancing, music.
Everything.
All of the, all engaging our whole body and spirit, and not making a big split between the two.
That's my goal. I'm glad you noticed that. Ooh, okay. So, because sometimes I don't know if my messaging is getting across very well. And I was really hoping that people saw that I'm not saying don't go to therapy and do like all this like ancient healing stuff. I'm saying the two can work together, because if I am a danger to myself, right? I don't know if the dancing gonna work right then and there. There's levels to it, right? Like I'm gonna need some meds probably to get me to a point where I can, and then incorporate the other things. I think that Western medicine and ancient healing modalities can definitely work in tandem. And I'm starting to see that now, which I'm so excited about. So yeah.
But I was in Target a few months ago just to buy some greeting cards. I was offered a bag. I didn't want the bag because, they were cards. Why did I need a big bag? So I took the receipt and I took the cards and started walking out. But I noticed as I was walking out that I was walking like this. And all of a sudden I noticed this is a most unnatural posture. I am trying to look conspicuously honest by holding my muscles in some crazy way, by constricting my movement so that I can signal to the world, please don't be afraid of me. Please don't see me as a thief. And so the fact that I would do that without thinking about it, that's why we need community, because my community helps me to think like, how are you breathing? Are you walking in your full posture?
And your community,
what are your muscles saying?
I was just going to say, and your community affirms you, right? And says to you, hey, I understand what just happened to you. I feel the same way whenever I walk in the store, because I don't want anyone to think that I'm stealing. It's kind of like, we see you, it's okay. What you're saying is real. You're not making this up in your head, right? So we need that. We need that affirmation and that reaffirmation and saying that it's okay, so that we can process this. We have to process it. We really do.
Right.
And it's so deep. It's so deep.
Otherwise, we just stay in the trauma and just let the trauma leaden us. And having each other. That's what the authentic connection is about. Being able, body to body, spirit to spirit, just showing up for each other.
If I'm not growing, I'm still, right? And I'm still, and kind of life is over, right? If I'm not growing, I'm what is stagnation? It's just not healthy. So I think about the opposite side of like, if I don't do it, what could happen, right? So if I don't get over my fear of heights and I let my fear take over me, what's going to happen? I'm going to be stuck there forever, right? If I didn't get over the fear of jumping, I would have been stuck there. Like, okay, maybe someone would have came up to help me, but I would have had to go down the same exact way. Either I was going down that way by myself, or I was going to be attached in tandem with somebody and going down there. So in order to proceed with life and to get on with life, I had to get over that fear. Just like I had to get over, I don't want to say I had to get over it, because that sounds so like, that wasn't a big enough. I had to reconcile some of my past traumas so that I can move on. Because otherwise it's going to either hold me there or it's going to pull me back to that point of trauma. And I'm going to constantly get re-traumatized and re-traumatized and re-traumatized. And how do you do it? Obviously, we talked about it, community, therapy, journaling, you know, kind of just getting it out of your body in whatever form, out of your mind, and looking at it and analyzing it and saying, okay, what did I learn from this thing? What did I learn from that experience of fear? Well, I learned that I could do the hard things. I could do the uncomfortable things. If I engage my, what is it called again? Parasympathetic nervous system. There we go. If I engage that, whoa, boy, there's so many things that I can do. And it's so empowering.
You're increasing your safety zone. You know, the ability to feel calm and safe. And that you know, the word that comes to mind is compassion. When you said, when I have to start looking at my stories and I would say believing them and believing that they are real. How did it, you know, how did I come to have this experience that I'm having right now with my muscular constriction or whatever it is I may be doing? Or you saying I'm sitting up on the ledge figuring out how to get down. Some part of it starts with saying, wow, look at the courage it took for me to go up. And knowing that there was someone that there, you know, your niece is there, there are people there who are going to be with you, that keep us growing, that keep us believing ourselves. And I say everything starts with breathing, right? If you're not breathing, you know, you're right, it's over, right? So we want to keep breathing, but it starts with like, let's slow down, you know, how am I being activated right now? How's this old stuff? What kinds of stories have I been living for a long time that are getting activating and causing me to react in the way that I am right now? And then respecting that, because then you can start to maybe see some new possibilities. You can become more present to what's possible for me right now.
After I jumped, because I had a crowd around me because I was holding up the line. You know, this is a zip lining kind of where you go from like one tree to another tree, and there's like all these different things in between. So I'm holding people up. So I have a whole audience, right? And they're rooting me on. You could do it. These little kids, 5 years old, 6 years old, little kids up there, okay? And when I jumped, the applause that I got afterwards, you know, saying like, you did it. You know what I mean? Like, you did it. Yeah. It just felt so good. So yes, the community part of it, and knowing that you have options, like you said, doing it alone and having someone help you, but also something that happened that I reflected on afterwards. And I realized that whenever I'm kind of out of my safety zone, if you will, my response, you know, there's the fight, flight, or freeze. That a lot of people don't talk about the freeze.
Or faint. Or fate.
Freeze. If I'm in a situation where I am scared out of my bejesus, I don't run, I don't fight, I freeze. And I realized that is my response. And it was my response in 2017 to all the trauma that I went through with corporate America. And it was like, it just dawned on me that is what happens when I go through something like that's so hard for me to deal with.
It's I think one thing that I would want to say is that our running, the freezing, the fainting, the whatever we do, we are trying to survive. And so it's so important, I think, to respect that impulse to survive. And probably at some point, that is how we survived. The other thing that I think that really I find extremely validating is that those aren't the only stress responses. Uh, let's think about our mamas and aunties and cousins and all of that. Something happens, something's going on, somebody treated you wrong. You grab the telephone, right? So what have they found out? The people who are doing stress research, they found out, oh, guess what? There are other stress responses. They're called tend and befriend. That is,
Mm.
we start to groom and care for each other. And I think once we are able, it's so hard to have that response validated in some of the spaces that we walk around in, because you're supposed to be like heroic and get things done on your own and act like you did it yourself and all of that. But nobody does anything alone. And if we didn't have tend and befriend, we would all be out of here. It's all about cooperation. It's just that that's the story that we haven't, that hasn't been lifted up. And I think a part of what we can do is lift up that story of tend and befriend. We've been getting each other through for a very, very long time. We got the science now out there that says, oh yeah, that works. Yeah, we've always known that it works. Now it's time to just lift it up.
Wow, that is so real. There is so much that we already do as a culture, just normally, that has provided us healing. Um, and obviously, one of the main things that I think has kept our culture going, and um, through everything that we've been through, is community and us really being there for each other. So, I really hope that we can continue this going forward. I know that unfortunately, as generations keep going, it seems like we're kind of getting, but I almost feel like we're going in a different direction where we're starting to become more community focused. And I hope, my prayer is that we can continue that on so that the next generation can kind of carry it forward, understanding where we have been, what we have gone through, and not letting it be something that like traumatizes us or holds us back, but gives us strength to propel forward. And knowing that we have some of these things kind of, in our DNA, just like we talk about generational curses, generational traumas, we also have generational healing as well. That's in our DNA.
Mm-hmm. I would just put an exclamation mark on all of that. I think that the challenges are daunting. They're daunting and they haven't become less so. I grew up in a completely different generation where there were signs on racism, right? So I could read that sign that said, don't come in here, right? And a part of what has happened though in the generations that came after me, in your generation and the generations to come, is that the sign said, oh yeah, you can come in. It's diverse, but you still have to employ, those like, how can I show up? Yes, I'm in here, but how can I show up and how can I make this my house? This is my house. I'm not just a guest in your house at your behest. That's what real belonging is about. You can say all the words about diversity, equity, inclusion, and all of that. It's about belonging and mattering. And that has been very, very, to just try and navigate the ambiguities of all of that with each succeeding generation